All right, it looks like we are live. So I mentioned in the comments, guys, things are a little bit different today. John messed up. It's always John that messes up. But we're still gonna go ahead and do this because we love Ben Fisher and Stefan Hovnanian, and I still want to interview them. I still want to get as much information out of them as I can for everybody out there and for my own sake. So hi Ben, hi Stefan, how's it going?
Hey,
Awesome.
how's it going? Thanks for having us, Alexandra.
How you
Of
doing?
course, I'm good. I mean, I'm a little bit angry at John. No, I can't be angry at John. I
I get
can't.
the whole floor today.
No.
This kind of
Yeah,
works out nice. And we'll
yeah,
keep to the hour.
maybe. I mean, we still have Ben, so we'll see. We'll see. But
It's okay. You could set Stepan and I on autopilot, and we'll just sit here and talk for about an
We could.
hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Who knows?
We could.
probably, I could see that happening. I could definitely see that happening. But just so everybody out there knows, John got a new toy. He's figuring out, I don't know, something about live stream video stuff, technology. I don't do it. He does the technology stuff, but he basically took apart everything that he had and that he used for the shows that we did, and he can't put it back together in time for this show. So we're doing this the regular old HOA way, and we're okay with it. So we wanted to start with talking about how Stefan and Ben met in Google Plus and how that relationship with just commenting back and forth became the business relationship that the two of you have today. So, who started it? Who started the relationship?
Who started the relationship? Oh, geez, gosh. I don't know. I think we kind of both started the relationship. Um, no, I don't know. I think it was back when we were kind of doing the experiments, basically. As a matter of
Yeah, I
fact,
think
yeah, I think
so.
it was during the whole plus one thing, right?
Yeah. That was like last June or so. The plus one
Yeah.
recommendations came out. It sucked 2 weeks out of our lives trying to figure out how to make it work and answering questions on hundreds of different threads with people concerned about their privacy and all this other stuff. And in the meantime, we're like, oh, this has some interesting implications. And yeah, Ben and I connected, I think, on a couple of different threads. We found some mutual, there was some, I guess, commonalities between the two of the way we're thinking. We're kind of we're like-minded. There's the word,
Like-minded. Well,
like-minded.
hey, you know what? You're from Philly, PA. I grew up in Jersey.
I'm from Jersey. We grew up in Mount Laurel.
Yeah, exactly.
I just found that out like a month ago. Like, dude,
Literally had the same stomping grounds.
yeah,
So here we are, over what, 20, 30 years later, and meet up on.
3,000 miles apart.
Yeah, exactly. So, so yeah, no, and so to dial that back, it's right. So yeah, Dustin and I, we were doing like the plus one experiments first, right? So we were looking at the plus one. What causes a plus one signal? We were doing that, and I think then the new plus one came out with the whole following, etc. And I remember, if I remember 100% correctly, Dustin and I both came to you and said, "Hey, Stepan, you want to join us on this experiment?" And you're like, "Dude, I hung my lab coat up. I don't put that thing back on anymore."
It was ridiculous. Whatever it was, I'm pretty sure that's what that whole thing was, and it really it sucked a lot of your life out of you. You know,
Yeah.
it was because the problem is you start getting involved in these things, and then you keep getting notifications, and you keep wanting to comment, and then somebody else comes up with another idea, and then like, oh, let's talk about that. So yeah, I mean, thousands of comments over the course of 2 months. I mean, 2 weeks rather or so, and in the meantime. That's just takes a lot out of you. So I know at one point I'm like, forget this, dude. I'm just gonna. Somebody moves my cheese, I'll just go find some more.
Although, me personally, I mean, I love doing experiments. I love trying to tinker with things, figure things out. I mean, that's how I started way back in the day. I mean, when I was a kid, I was ripping apart VCRs and TVs. My parents would yell at me, and I'd be like, "Don't worry about it. I'm going to put it back together. It'll work better." and it did.
So I have a question, because did the two of you kind of realize that you think similar and that you have similar interests? Was it more through comments, or did your relationship really start to develop after using Hangouts and meeting each other in Hangouts? In the green room, you guys mentioned that you had a business conversation a while ago.
Well, this I remember. That's right, Dustin. You heard your name. So, by the way, just give a shout out there to Nicholas, Cheryl. How you doing, guys? Dustin, welcome, buddy. So, but yeah, so actually, I remember this very specifically. So, Stepan and I would interact in threads together, and we'd be talking about like the difference between Dustin picture posts, and the whole idea of strategy behind posts. Do I do a link post? Do I do a picture post? And one of the things where Stefan and I always agreed on is you need to have, and Dustin agrees, of course, on this too, but is you need to have basically some kind of a strategy and intent behind any kind of thing that you're doing on social media, on Google+. So behind whatever post you're doing, whether that's to amass +1s, get links, track it down to a sale, you're always having some kind of strategy intent. And that was, I think, the real common thread that really kind of brought us together and be like, hey, you know what? We should hang out. And then once we did do a hangout, then it was like literally we had these like 2-3 hour marathon talks, literally, where we would just talk about tons of stuff, all related to Google Plus and business. Yeah. Any of those conversations stick out to you, Stefan?
I mean, we've definitely put our time in. It's the Hangouts it's so great because a lot of us work for ourselves. We don't work from home, or just don't have access to that office environment. So once you build that rapport with somebody, you have a chat open all the time, and Alex, you know this, right? Between you and John, right? When we had you guys on our show, this is what we talked about. So you just have you have a chat open, and you're just I have an idea, just like you would walk up to somebody in an office, and you build a huge camaraderie that way. The neatest thing about it is everybody has, when you're in this context versus maybe an office context, you met each other because you had the same interests. So now you have now you're continuing to build on that relationship with that same interest. It's not like you're walking up to an office colleague. The only thing you share in common is a job. Now we have the same passions. We get to know each other a little bit better. So yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah. And as far as anything that sticks out in my mind, the one that sticks out of my mind the most is the one we had a few months ago when here's a segue for you. When we're talking on our we're talking about Google Plus Business Spotlight in some context, and then we switched over to how steady demand was doing and some things related to steady demand, because I've always loved the business, I've loved the company. Ben was my second guest, and then has ultimately become a co-host, and I use the Pro Tool and all this other stuff, which we'll segue into later. And then we mentioned that they had an opportunity for they're looking for somebody on the operational side. Like, maybe me. What do you think? And that was another talk.
It was another 4 hours.
But here we go. That was memorable, right? That was awesome. And it was like over the span of a weekend, we worked it all out. And I started like a couple of days later was like my official, first day in the office.
Exactly. I love and we were talking about this actually just the other day on the G Plus Business Spotlight. And that's the thing is that on Google Plus, I think one of the things that's so magical about it is that you can hop into a hangout, you can read somebody's body language, go back and forth, have a great, intelligent conversation, not just sharing pictures of cats and dogs. Although I'm not saying you can share pictures of cats and dogs if you like that. Just saying. But you can have a great conversation. You can really kind of get to know somebody, and in a very accelerated fashion too. And you can do business, but you're doing business with like-minded people. You're not doing business with people just because oh, I think this would be a great business opportunity. No, you're doing business with people because you become friends with them. And and then by becoming friends, now you start attracting other people of like mind, and it just kind of snowballs out from there. And that's just the beauty of Hangouts. It's the beauty of the platform. And this is just it's one example of real world. Hey, Google Plus works for business. It was the same thing with Dustin Stout. There's your name again, Dustin.
He's way behind. He just got to the part where you were talking about the photo posts. So
oh, I know. Yeah, it's 30 seconds.
We'll catch up.
Yeah, he'll get there. So, Dustin.
I feel like I should just invite him in here. Dustin, if you want to hop in, let me know, and I'll send you.
Wait, can I bring this comment up?
Pull Dustin.
Absolutely.
Why not?
If you guys could just stop talking for about 3 minutes to get caught up, that would be great.
Just dead silence for 3 minutes.
You know what, pal?
That's funny. But so you bring up an interesting question for me, Ben, because I teach freshmen in college. And they go to college because they're interested in getting jobs. And a lot of them think that LinkedIn is the place to go to find jobs, because LinkedIn has become the place where you drop your virtual resume, so to speak. So would you recommend for someone their age hopping in Google Plus and focusing on building relationships in Google Plus rather than LinkedIn? If they had to choose one, where would you say that they go?
Google Plus. Now, I love LinkedIn. I do a lot of business on LinkedIn. The people that I know on LinkedIn, I mean, everybody that's, I'm in that, 500 plus club, whatever. And everybody that's on my LinkedIn, I actually do know, or I've met, or they're an acquaintance. I've met them at one point in my life. But do I really know them? Do I interact with them on a weekly basis? Absolutely not, unless they're from Google Plus. I've got people on my LinkedIn profile that I know from Google Plus. Like Mark Traphagen. He's connected me on Google Plus. He's given me a recommendation, all that, and I've done the same for him. Of course, we're going to do that. But I think that if you're really looking to do something in an accelerated fashion, G Plus is a great place to be, because you could hop on and hang out with somebody and just say, okay, let's say you're looking to get a job and you want to do it in the video game industry. So, you've got some great experience. So why not go hang out with some producers, hang out with some people who maybe do QA for a game company, start hanging out with them, get to know them. You're actually very interested in getting to know them in the first place because they share your passion. And then organically, what'll come out of that is be like, hey, by the way, there might be just so you know, I'm looking to get into the gaming industry. If you know anything, drop me your line, let me know. And they might be like, well, hey, QA job just opened up, and by the way, it's remote. You interested? That can happen. On LinkedIn, you've got more recruiters. It's also more of a 2D type of situation. It's all text. It's back and forth text. And that can be misread in so many different ways. With Hangouts, you've got multiple dimensions. And again, coming back to body language, you've got the whole body language factor. You do not get that with LinkedIn.
Can I add a few things?
No. Yes, of course you can.
She didn't ask me for my input, so.
I was going to move to you once Ben was done.
Oh, okay. So here's my 2 cents to add on to everything Ben said. If you're going to pick Google Plus, you're doing it to build up a personal brand and a footprint on the web that talks about who you are, what you're interested in, what you know a lot about. You can't do that on the other networks. So, it's really important to be able, and plus, G Plus is an open network. You could come on to, my profile, Ben's profile, Mark, anybody, pick a profile, right? You go onto anybody's profile and just leave a comment, and You can't do that anywhere else. I mean, except for Twitter. You can do that on Twitter, but you really can't do that anywhere else. And what it allows you to do is to elevate your personal brand to a level that you just, again, it's inaccessible on the other networks. So I've built mine more here, even though I've been on LinkedIn since like '06, but I never paid a lot of attention to it from a networking standpoint or a job, find me a job standpoint, because I have my own business, so it was kind of useless. So, again, going back to your question about freshmen and, what should they do? Yeah, build a personal brand for yourself on Google+. Build a footprint for yourself with the type of content you're sharing. Go into communities that are of interest to you and just start connecting with people, network with people. And I would still, make sure your LinkedIn profile reflects who you are, because the recruiters are going to want to see who you are. So you just have to pay cursory attention to it. But as far as going in there and doing hardcore networking, it's not transparent enough, and it's not fluid enough. I also think the kids you're talking to now are probably way more used to, better mobile integration and just things being way more fluid. And that's not LinkedIn style. They're a little clunkier still. Hopefully they'll get better, but they're clunkier. So you'll get more out of it this way.
Right.
My 2 cents.
Right. And I mean, you're talking about this idea of building your personal brand, and I think that really that fits into what we're originally talking about, which is relationships, right? So when we consider our personal brand and relationships, I want from each of you, if someone is coming in here for the first time and they really want to focus on building relationships like the two of you have with each other and other people, what would be the one thing, I know it's always the one thing, right? What would be the one thing that you would recommend that they work on to build those important relationships?
Focus on one relationship at a time. Don't spread yourself thin. It comes down to be really authentic about it. It's kind of difficult to get to know, say, 20 different people than it is to really get to know one person. So, sow that seed, foster that relationship. Once you've got that relationship set, now you can kind of move it over here and say, all right, so this person's important to me, and set I have to do the air quotes, schedule, in a sense, but to say, I'm going to connect with this person, at least once a week or once a month, because they're important to me. But then, you move on to the next relationship. Okay, so now I'm going to focus on this person. And, I even did that on Google+. I actually set it up on my calendar. It's like, I want to connect with this person. This is a person I want to connect with. And I was very kind of thoughtful about it, saying that, yeah, these people really do interest me. Or I'd be in a hangout group, doing a HOA, and be like, hey, we need, that was an awesome HOA. We need to connect. And I think I even got up to a point where it's like I had literally like 15 people in 1 week, and I was like, oh my God, I got to connect with all these people. I better space these out a little bit. So, but I guess that would be my takeaway, is focus on those relationships, foster them, and build them one at a time. It takes a while, but it's so worth it. It really, yeah.
I would say, like, and this is hard for freshmen, right? Because you're still trying to figure this out, especially on the professional side. But I would just say be true to who you are, and that's how you're going to get out there and comment. When people are going to see who you are, right? You're going to make a comment on somebody's post. Again, I told you before, if you're going to go onto somebody's post who's a little bit higher level of authority, you're going to want to make some type of intelligent comment. When you make that intelligent comment, hopefully you're doing it in a genuine fashion, so that you keep walking that walk. I mean, that's important. And if you can't do, the other thing I know you asked for one. Mine's like a 1A and a 1B, right? It's a be yourself, but also don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Like, understand who you are, but also understand who you aren't. So if that means asking questions, then ask a question on a comment, in a comment, instead of like trying to give your opinion on something that may or may not actually be right. But just so that you could like try and lift yourself up a little bit. Instead, ask a question. Say, I don't totally understand what you mean. And people again, this is an open network. People love to help each other. And so it's a great way for you to connect and make those connections with, with whether they're influential people or whether they're not influential people, and they're just like you trying to figure it out. If you understand who you are, that comes across in how you speak and the posts you put up. And if you understand who you aren't, that helps you understand how to find that help. And overall, you just end up with a great experience.
Yeah. One thing I want to say about influencers is that you never know who's going to be the next influencer. And I know we all talk about, you've got to connect with the influencers. You need to connect with the influencer. The fact of the matter is if you're not an influencer today, you can be that next influencer. And if you're only focusing on influencers, you're missing out on somebody else who might potentially one day become an influencer. Or together, you could become influencers. So I guess the word of wisdom there is you don't always have to focus just on connecting with influencers. Connect with people that you want to connect with. That comes down to just basic human needs, is connecting with people that you really enjoy connecting with. They don't have to be, oh my God, they're these influencers. Hey, it could be just somebody who shares the same amount of passion and the same kind of things that you like. And together you could just build it, your own influence. People will gravitate to you naturally as long as you're being authentic.
We see that a lot here too on Google+. It's less of a game, there's less of that game playing, jockeying for position stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you see a lot of people that normally would be considered competitors, right? Actually connecting with each other and creating things together, which is one of the things that really drew me to Google+, and that people have to be real. I'm all about the authenticity, which is why Twitter just scares me to death. It really does. I'm gonna have to deal with it one day, but my students keeping like, what? You're not in Twitter? No, not yet. I'm working on it. But so when we're talking about these relationships and we're talking about building these relationships on Google+, what can steady demand do for people in Google+ that are building these relationships? Where does steady demand fit into my plussing experience?
Your plussing experience? So you know what? I'm going to throw this out here because I've been working with the wonderful Jillian Music and her new company, and she's been helping us actually recraft kind of our 7-second elevator pitch.
You're gonna do this in 7 seconds, Ben?
It's probably going to take 15 because I haven't honed it down perfectly.
Okay.
So
your advice is always travel to the penthouse.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Jillian Music was one of the co-founders of Moz, and she has a new company that is helping companies basically refine their brand messaging, their brand strategy, to basically accelerate the growth of their companies. And one of the things that they do is they work with you and help you build a process around building an elevator pitch that anybody can understand. Which I think for us on Google Plus is important because we are trying to reach inside the sphere of Google Plus. We kind of know what's going on, but we're always trying to reach outside of the sphere of Google Plus. That's the important thing to really do. So here it is. I'm going to give you the pitch. And in the audience, if it makes sense to you, say yes. If it doesn't, then tell me it sucks, and I'll have to keep on working on it. And if you have a suggestion, awesome! Okay, so here it is. So what does steady demand do? And I'm going to look to the side because I'm reading it. I haven't memorized it yet. So we help companies gain visibility on the internet by creating, uploading, and curating content on Google+. Using storytelling, engagement, communities, and video hangouts, we grow your influence, brand exposure, and help connect you to targeted individuals that will help you spread your message once they are exposed to you via personalized search and by authentic engagement. So that's basically what Say Demand is.
That's You guys do a lot of stuff. It's interesting. You mentioned targeted individuals. So
Yes.
are these and before this you said you never know who the next influencer is going to be. So are these targeted individuals people that the brand would connect well with regardless of their influence? How are these targeted individuals found?
So basically we say it's 60% engineering, 40% human. So, and what I mean by that is that we use tools like the Smallwoods Nodex. So we use not Nodex. Of course, we use our tool, Steady Demand Pro, and we can use both of those tools kind of in combination. Even circle count. And we use those tools all kind of in combination. And then there's the human intuition side of things. So by putting in either a hashtag keyword search, or by looking at relationships and connections with people in industries, or analyzing brand pages or people who are influencers, we can kind of drill down through all of that and say, okay, so this is a person that's probably going to connect extremely well with our brand, and if we get to know this person on a personal level as a brand, then that person might, if they want to, might spread the message. They might become a fan. They might become a maven, basically. So that's what we mean by connecting with people. And, again, they may be an influencer. They may not be an influencer. And if they're not an influencer, we're still going to get to know them. Because, again, just based on, again, human intuition, you can tell if somebody's, outgoing, if somebody who likes to talk, and somebody who likes to really share a brand's message that they can kind of fall in love with. And kind of at the end of the day, that's our job, is to kind of convey that personality for our customers and get people to fall in love with brands.
It's a hard thing to do too. That you hear, we talk about it a lot, that it's hard for people to identify really well and build a great relationship with with an avatar or a logo versus a profile picture, a face and a smile and eyes and all. It's just harder to do that. So it's an uphill battle for brands. And if if this is a way to help, this is kind of what we do to help mitigate that.
It is. It definitely, brands have it a little bit, as SEO-wise, I've always said, in some instances, personal brands have it easier because people tend to trust people before they trust brands. That's just kind of how it goes. Something that you said that just completely piqued my interest, Ben, is you mentioned circle count and Nodex.
Hmm?
Most of us would think that the three of you are competitors.
Oh, good question. Okay, I know where you're going. Keep going.
But you mentioned that you use their tools to better your services alongside your tool. So, I mean, how did that become a relationship among brands rather than pure competition?
So, first of all, that kind of goes back to, I guess, my philosophy in business. And I think our entire team shares this kind of vision. And that is, I believe in what's called co-opetition. You can't be everything to everyone all of the time. It's almost impossible. And everyone wants to do that when they first start out. And they think that they can be everything all the time to everyone. But you can't. So having strong partners, having strong relationships with your competition, you can find ways to really complement each other. And, of course, there's competition. But the market is so vast. The number of businesses that are on Google Plus is so huge. And the differentiators between the three tool sets, we haven't even talked about, like, Friends Plus Me, Plus My Reach, Circle the Scope. I mean, the list kind of keeps going on, is growing actually. but all of the tools kind of complement each other in one way or another. And, are some of the features going to be duplicated? Absolutely. They're going to, absolutely. Is somebody going to try and say, oh, well, you're offering that paid? Well, I'm going to offer that for free. Well, you know what? That's up to you if you want to do that. And if you want to do it as a direct stab at somebody, as a competition, then, that's shame on your karma wheel, not mine. But we don't see that very often. And like, for instance, with Lee, with Nodex, Lee Smallwood, he and I have been on 3-hour conversations with each other, where we'll just literally be sipping some wine, drinking some beer, whatever, and go off on tangents and conversations, that sometimes that have to do with Google Plus or have to do with business or whatever. And we operate in totally separate fields than each other, but then again, also the same kind of fields. So, and then we'll have private conversations every once in a while with people over at Circle Count, and same thing with, Michael Mason over at Plus My Reach, and it's co-opetition at the end of the day. So, and like I said, each one of our tools offers a different piece of value, I think, to everybody.
And there's certain things that people want to do that, because of how they're approaching Google Plus and their specific needs, that where one tool might be better suited for another, and it may not have anything to do with cost versus free versus versus anything else like that. It could just be, hey, I'm a visual type of person, so I'm going to gravitate more towards a visual type of tool, or I only really care about 3 different stats, so where can I get them for free fast? I mean, it depends on what you're looking for. The real key is finding out what you're looking for, because if you know what you're looking for, you can go find the tools and surround yourself with people and systems and processes that are going to give you what you're looking for, so this doesn't become a huge waste of time. But that's a bigger picture, and that's a precursor to selecting a tool of any sort.
Yeah, I mean, I encourage everybody try every one of the tools that you can. And like Stefan's saying is that depending upon your strategy, your intent, and your comfortability with the tool set, if you can find what you need, then boom, great, you're done, you're good. But if a new tool pops up, try it. Absolutely, sign up. If they've got a free trial, do it. If it costs $5 a month to just get your feet wet, check it out. More importantly, just go on Google Plus and do a search for review. See what other people think about it. How are they using it? We've gotten reviews up on everywhere from Social Media Examiner, Social Media Today, Plus Your Business, and kind of the list keeps going on. And there's a lot of, internal reviews just from people and their personal experiences just on Google Plus. And, I think the same is true for all the tools that are out there. So, read up on it, try it out, see if it fits your business or your strategy, and if it works, awesome, great. If it doesn't work, sorry, we'll try better.
So, speaking of the intricacies of each tool, Ben, I was hoping that you would, or you said maybe Stefan could do it in a shorter amount of time. If you could do just a run through of, and I don't know if you want to do this with a screen share, whatever works best for you, of the steady demand tool, because it is interesting, but all of these tools, especially for someone like me that is terrified of technology and analysis, it can be kind of overwhelming.
Oh yeah, it can definitely be overwhelming. So we'll probably do this.
I have a screen share up if you want.
You already have a screen share up?
Yeah, man. I got the demo. I'm like, who are we going to use? Here we go. Oh, wait a minute. We'll just use ourselves.
All right. Throw it on up. Throw the bad boy up there.
Look behind the curtain of steady demand and see if we're doing a good job.
Yeah, and by the way, if anybody has any questions in the audience specifically about the tool, feel free to ask, please.
All right.
Okie dokies.
Do you want to blue box me, Alex, or anything
Yep,
like that?
got it.
Yeah, I've got your blue box too, Stefan.
Good.
Okay.
So do I.
So just a couple things about the tool in general. We have a pretty comprehensive dashboard. What you're looking at here right now is when you first log in. Just a couple things to highlight is in the upper right-hand corner, you have a selection box that allows you to see all of your profiles. Steady Demand Pro can analyze any public personal brand profile or brand profile. You do not need the OAuth login type of connections. Very useful if you're doing basically analysis on a competitor or analysis on somebody that you would like to be like. Another thing might be is that you want to track somebody, see somebody's progress. Say, for instance, Christine DeGraff. She's been a poster child for the tool for a while, so I'm going to use her again. Thanks, Christine. And she had an explosive growth on Google+. So maybe you want to see how that happened. You can go back in 365 days, a full year, 5 minutes after you've loaded somebody's profile on the tool. You can look at 1 year backwards of their history. So, and you can see every single post, how those posts performed, all of the different metrics that we'll be getting in and showing you. And that's why there's a date selector right there underneath the drop-down box. So you can, yeah, we don't need to dial it back right now. So then, of course, we remind you of the profile that you're looking at on the top there. Right underneath of that, we've got our signature brand audit tool. So this is, of course, only for brand pages. If we were on a personal profile, you would not see that. So basically, as you can see with Steady Demand, we're all highlighted in a nice little kind of a light bluish green. That basically means, okay, awesome, you passed the 7-point check on the audit. The thing is, though, is that maybe you log in one day and you notice that, oh, +1 on site, that's red. Why is that red? Well, a lot of people change their WordPress installations. They'll do an upgrade. Maybe a webmaster makes a change and removes the +1 button, well, or the rel equals publisher tag. So now your G+ connection is totally broken. We let you know right away from the dashboard that, hey, there's a problem. You need to go fix it. That's also down the...
Let me interject real quick. The reason you care about this is because if all of these connections are set up properly, then all the work you're doing on Google Plus reflects on your domain name, because your domain name is linked to your brand page. So the whole idea is you built your website for conversion and for search engine optimization, for certain keywords, whatever. You want to get credit for that and build the authority for your domain name by all the work you're doing on Google Plus. That's why a lot of brands came onto Google Plus. So this helps you have as many connections as possible, so that all of the work that you're doing both on your website and on Google Plus is shown to Google, and it kind of all flows back and forth together. So that's why we care about these things. Otherwise, it's not as important, which is why we can't show them for personal pages, because there's no website.
Correct. No website attached.
That's like a duh, but see someone like me, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're a personal brand, like with your own name as your website, that doesn't count.
Yeah, there actually has to be that physical link and connection for that to actually work.
It has to be a brand page setup.
Yeah. And same thing with domain authority. With no domain, there can be no domain authority. So we'll get into Moz in a little bit, but we show you that there as well. So if you don't have a Moz account, then it'll give you what your most recent Moz update was. So you can see your domain authority right at a glance. I mean, as you can see, our domain authority is up by 33% over the last 30 days. Yes. So good job, Julian.
It's scary to do live demos, by the way, because you never know what's going to happen.
This is true. This is true, but hey, transparency. And anyway, if you have a pro account, you can still load Steady Demand into your tool and watch. So, so as you can see, what this is telling us is that we've generated 559 signals. We'll get into that. 23 posts have been made over the past 30 days, and our total number of connections have gone up by 12%. Again, great job, Liliana. Then we give you just the engagement graph by day. You can actually highlight a point and dig even deeper at this time. We don't need to dig deeper at the moment though. Then you can go down the page. Again, it's just snapshot views. Engagement, what's doing well. It looks like what's doing really well for us right now is photos and events. Then there's the post types, breaks it down, how's everything doing as far as engagement by hour. We'll dig into that in another minute. And then there's the post quality breakdown, just kind of in a nice little visual format. Okay.
I have a question, Ben.
Yeah.
Just honest to God, I just realized this. So let's look at this real quick, right? We have 115, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, 115 comments in the at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern. That seems over the last 30 days. So my question to you is does this mean the post was made in the 5 o'clock p.m. hour, or this is all the comments were at 5 o'clock in the 5 o'clock p.m. hour?
This means that post was created in that 5 o'clock hour, and also started, and so those posts that were made in that accumulated that many comments, basically.
It's a good point to bring up, and the only reason I do that is because sometimes you get all your comments like later on, and also for those of you who do events. I'm sort of going a bit sidebar here, but it's important for when you're looking at these stats, because we talked about, knowing what you're looking for is kind of important here. If you do an event, like if I set an event up at midnight, just because that's when I'm awake, well, all the stats for that event are going to track on midnight. And I don't think it matters what tool you're using, that's how that works. So, and I figured we would just bring that up so that you know that, for those of you, especially for events, but for those of you who are trying to create, good posting schedules or trying to analyze what's happening on your posts, the comments could happen over the course of a day, and there might be a hotter time during the day for comments, but if that isn't reflected, that might not be reflected on the post side of things, because these are all when the post was actually made.
Right, so. and post creation time is actually, from what we've seen statistically, so in a very objective standpoint, is very important, and it's all dependent upon your brand, your industry, and your audience that you fostered. So as I say, save the unicorns. There is no quote unquote perfect time to post. It's very dependent on you. And your behavior and your audience's behavior. And so that's why, we dial in literally with a laser with this data. So, we know that this is a really good time for a specific type of post, and we can tell that just by looking at basically two graphs. But it changes, and that's the other cool thing about it too. So one of the things I suggest is checking in at least on a weekly basis, and starting to take a look and see, what's moved, what's changed. Is there maybe a little bit better of a time? Yeah.
Yeah, no, the what's moved
That's
part.
Interesting though. Does it change because your audience changes?
It changes because your audience is changing and growing, so their behavior is different.
It could also change on the type of post. Like, for example, if you had an HOA that hit the 500 comment mark, and you did that at midnight, right, on a Saturday, but the HOA wasn't until Tuesday afternoon, like, that's going to show something completely different. So, we have the best the best information we have here in front of us. A lot of it's largely dependent on the API. But if you're going to do, and again, I keep bringing up events, but most posts, this is less of an issue. But with events, those of you guys who are doing that, just keep that in mind, because it's going to change your data significantly. But the reason I clicked over to here, to this next tab, Connections, which is the second tab in this whole menu. So we're going to move things a little faster now.
Yeah, we're going to have to start moving faster.
And it just kind of shows you your cumulative growth over for your brand page, or again, your profile.
It's actually, most of this really is only, well, yeah, no, actually it does it for both. The only thing that we don't track is plus oneers on brand pages because there is none.
Right, right, they're gone.
Correct.
So you can see our follower count has been going up, and the thing to use these graphs for are spikes and dips. You would hope that it's going to be a nice level, level increase every day. But if you see a spike, like for example, we have a little bit of a change in the way the graph looks here. We got one here. It was a little
You can click
different.
on it.
We had, a little more growth here and here, whatever, a little spike. So what you can do, I think we can click into this, right? Yeah,
Yep.
we can click into that day, and we can see what happened that day, how many posts we made. The post will give us a grade, and the grade is just based off of us tracking those the best practices for things for posts like your hashtags or plus mentions, length, taking into account the culture of and the tools that we have to create nice looking posts that people want to read and interact with. So that's why we grade them that way, and it's our own grading system. But again, you have the post activity, and you can see. So we can click. By the way, real quick, we could click through to the post. You click on the link there, and click through to the ripples, so you can actually load the ripple page up right from there, launch you over to the ripples page. You can see who the sharers were of that page, so you can see we had a lot of activity on that page in that day when I clicked over. A lot of it seems to have been because we had a post that took off. We had quite a number of shares here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 64 plus 1, 8 comments, 27 shares.
27 shares. That's a lot, because now 27 shares means you're getting a lot of exposure outside of your own profile on Google Plus. And we're going back to that day, which I think it was this one or whatever, one of these. Yeah. So it generated a lot of, generated another 13 followers for us, which is exactly a little bit more than we normally get every day.
Yeah. One thing I did want to mention that I want to kind of go back to is back up at the top. Even though plus ones on brand pages are no longer displayed on desktop and mobile because they've been replaced by followers, we still actually have that data via the API. As far as I know, we're the only tool that actually has that data. So if you're still curious about how many plus ones your brand page actually has, that data still exists.
Interesting.
Yes.
So just moving back to the bottom of this page, again, you can see a breakdown by, which is pretty much this, it's a tabular breakdown instead of the graphs. And again, if you see a dip or if you see a spike, you can click right on view, and does this launch the same page?
It'll pretty much go exactly that same page.
This takes you to that same other page. So that's cool if depending on how you like to look at things. My favorite part of this page, quite honestly, is this connection quality. So you have signal to follower ratio, which is plus ones, comments, and shares, I believe, right, or signals. Yep. And we divide that by the number of followers we have, and we try and get a ratio. And it does become harder to sustain a really good number as you get more followers. Because you hit a tipping point where you just have more people following you that are interacting with you. When you're a smaller brand, this number is usually like off the charts, because you get one comment and you have 100 people following you. That's an awesome percentage, right? So and then we also we're
looking at 50% actually. So for a signal to follower ratio, it kind of disproves the whole I have 1 million followers, so therefore I am awesome kind of thing. So right. If you've got 1 million followers and 500,000 of those people are interacting with you, yeah, your signal to follower ratio rocks. It's the same thing with the signal to follower to plus oneer ratio. Meaning they're plus oneing the actual brand page itself. So anything or the plus oneing or making some kind of a plus one on a post, anything above 10% basically would look at that as a great quality. And again, this is all based upon just math more than anything else.
Ugh. You guys can do the math. I'll just sit and look at the results.
Yeah, we do the math for you.
Awesome.
So the other cool aspect of this, and this is what I think beyond the engagement and connections tab, this is what people probably talk about the most when it comes to the steady demand tool. Basically we have what we consider the minimalistic version of an ideal post, and we break it down for you, and we tell you what you've done over this time period. How many perfect posts have you had? How many that met the length? How many met just the length criteria? How many met just hashtag and length criteria? And how many of them have completely failed? You get a
I
complete
usually
fail, fix
them on
it.
Like an
or
ego blow.
The cool thing is, though, is that with G Plus, you have 72 hours to go in and fix these things. So at least we've seen historically, again, just based on data, is that if you go in and you do have a complete fail, well, guess what? If you fix it within that 72-hour window, which is when most of the activity occurs, you can get yourself a nice little hockey stick when it comes to traffic. So you can breathe new life into that post. So it was a fail, which again, if we go back up to the top a little bit, please. So you look at the mechanical score. The mechanical score basically takes a look at the three things, which is length, how many characters, hashtags plus mentions. We've basically proven with this data is that if you make 2 out of 3 of those things true, then you're going to get, on the average, better and more signals, basically more social signals, more engagement. So that's why it's important. So you've got that window of time, and actually under alerts, we have a portion of the alerts that will send you a message and say, hey, by the way, you have a couple posts that have failed the audit tool. It might be a good idea to go fix them. So we let you know, and you can go back and you fix them. And we've had people that have done that and come back to us and be like, oh my God, thank you so much, for this. It's saved my job. Last thing on
forget a hashtag.
Exactly. Last thing on this, if you want to scroll down to the bottom of this page.
Actually, for some reason on my Firefox, it goes over to the right. But normally this is down the bottom.
Yes. So if you just want to click on one of those.
We'll click on an A.
There you go. It basically will tell you what is right or what is wrong with your post. So it'll tell you, for instance, in this case, it's an A, so, of course, we're going to say everything's good, but the hashtags there, good links, mentions, and their social signals. A D, oops, no hashtags, it's too short, no mentions, but there are social signals present, and that's why it's got a D. So
if we click on that one, it takes us right to the post.
Correct.
Now, all right, this is a good one for you guys. So take a look at the actual post. There's nothing wrong with this one, right? We have plenty of length. We're missing a hashtag, but we have plus mentions, and we have formatting and everything like that. But we gave this thing a fail because it's a reshare.
Correct. Right. It's based on the original.
On the original post. That's an API thing. So you know what? You may want to be cognizant of the types of posts that you share, because for one thing, you're putting them on your profile. But if you're tracking this kind of stuff, it's something to keep in mind. And if you see that there's a fail, and you're like, oh, come on, I put my heart and soul into this thing. Well, if you shared something that was just like a blind YouTube video, you may have, and you got a good engagement on it, but it still showed that there was a fail. What you might want to do the next time is forget that guy and just go get the YouTube video yourself and share it yourself, because you're getting good engagement. But and who knows, you might even get better engagement, because now this is, again, it goes based off the original post. Right. So I want to bring that up.
We have a question really quickly from Kevin Burns. His question is, does the tool inform you which posts that the followers started to follow you? I see followers that I don't know for sure where they came from, no context. So so he doesn't know basically what followers are coming from. So the answer to that is yes and no. So and that's actually going to bring us into the engagement tab. So if we go into our engagement tab, what the useful thing here is, we give you your averages, right? There's other tools that give you averages too. I would like to say ours are probably pretty deadly accurate. But if you just want to go down this screen a little bit here, step onto the day. So actually, so one of the things that you can see, I'm sorry, actually we need to go back to connections for to answer this question. Yeah, so okay, and just go down the page. So basically what you can see here is that you can track the follower growth by day. So for instance, if we look at February 28th, we gained 16 followers. So if you know, Kevin, the people that followed you on February 28th, we can go over to the right and click on View Activity for that day, and we can see the posts that you made on that day. So therefore, you can make a correlation to say this post probably, I say probably, gained you those followers. There's other variables that are in there that we're not tracking. Like for instance, you might have been posting on somebody else's post. You might have been interacting with them on another comment thread. So we're not tracking those. It's just tracking on your brand page. So it's kind of a wild card in that. I would actually suggest Nodex for that if you're looking for things that are happening off of your brand page. So yeah. So
we were on the engagement page. We had some averages, which are great because it does help to it helps to smooth out anything that may have taken off or totally bombed. If you have usually good engagement, and you have a post that totally bombed, or if you have average engagement and one took off, averages help smooth those things out a little bit. That's useful. And we talk about the number of plus ones, total shares. And the other thing with averages, it gives you a line that you could start to track against. You could say, okay, I have, I'm starting to get 5 shares a month. 5 shares per post. Let me try and get to 6 next month. Let's see if I can do some things on Google Plus with the way I post to try and encourage that number to go up. And that's again why averages are always so helpful. And you can obviously dial it into by day, just like we've seen on some of the other ones. Clicking on View takes you to that same page that we've shown. You can see we got 114 comments, 44 shares, 28 plus ones with one post. What's up? We had one go on fire.
Exactly, with one post.
Unless it was an event, which for 114 comments, could very well be an event. But either way, whatever it was, we can now. Well, what the hell? Let's just click on it. Let's find out because now No, it wasn't. Oh, nice.
No, it was not. Yes.
I think Facebook post should mirror what you put on Google Plus. Oh, yeah, that'll get 114 comments.
So let's go to it by post type.
Yeah, because this is my favorite page.
This
is what Ben sold me on right here, guys. This is my favorite page on the entire tool.
So by post type, the thing that's really interesting here is that, and we see this across so many profiles. So Dustin's going to hate me for this, but the common theory is that photo posts do awesome, right, for everybody. That's not necessarily true. And the reason the way we look at it is is that how many signals were created based on the number of posts that you've made, or the number of that specific post type. So in this case, when we're looking at this data, we made 4 posts about an event, but overall, even though we made more posts that had photos, we had 51 times the number of signals for events. So what that tells me is hey, we should probably do some more event posts.
And it looks like we don't do enough link sharing because we only had 2 of them. We've shared 1 album, which I don't know about anybody else. Albums tend not to do so well for me either. And videos could be interesting too to see how well videos do. And plain text. So we haven't had in this time frame. We haven't had any plain text posts. We haven't had any videos. But if you were a little bit more if you had a little bit more even distribution with the types of posts that you made, you would obviously have numbers here. And the interesting thing would be you could see whether a certain type of post people resonated with, and not just for signal to post, right? But you could say, wow, my photos are more shared than my events or my articles, or I get more comments on an album than or on a text post, which would make a lot of sense actually, than than a photo. I get more comments on text, which might be a question or a link, versus which is what article is, versus a photo, where maybe everybody's just looking at the picture and wants to share it, or +1. Who knows? But you can start to use this data to do experiments and see if you can figure out what works best for your audience, because these are people tuning into you, and they're the ones that are going to interact on your posts. Right. So this is
almost more importantly, as a business, you can analyze what other people are doing. What are other people doing? What's resonating with their audience? If you want that audience, then you might want to emulate what somebody else is doing. So you can go into the tool, load somebody else's profile in, and analyze away. And I encourage that. If you've got the business plan, which has 5 profile slots, keep 4 slots for yourself and for your brand pages and your personal pages. Leave 1 slot open to just do analysis on competitors. That's definitely a way to go. So we're going to move on really quickly to time per day. Time per day, by the way,
common. A lot of people know this one.
Yeah, this is true. So, but yeah, time per day, we do the same exact thing that we did with post type, except we're doing it based on time. Again, it's going to be different for everybody, every brand page. But we're basically, in a really quick nutshell, we show you your top 5 time slots. What we recommend is keep on focusing on your top 3, but then go ahead and we do recommend messing around with the bottom 2. So in this case, we take 4 and 6 and maybe replace it with some other basically times during the day. See if something else performs better. You never know. 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock might work a little bit better.
Yep.
Moving on from there, we've got top +1ers, top engagers, and top commenters. The way the way that this actually functions is we look at a window that's 14 days behind, and we only show you a 1 week of that snapshot. So I encourage you basically to come in once a week, maybe just make it part of your routine. And just every Friday, come in and check out, who has been your best influencers. And then just circle them up, visit their profiles, make sure they're of interest to you, and add them to your influencers. And you should really start interacting with these people, because these people are your fans. They're your mavens. Hey, look at that. We got Jason T. Weiser, Stepan, William Rock, Bill Ashton. So yeah, anyway, that would be my takeaway on that.
Yeah.
Anything to add to that, Stepan?
No. It's a great little tool, and I like the idea of once a week, hop into this and do something with it. Do something with this data. Yeah. It's a good takeaway there. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess we could run through the rest of the stuff, like the Moz one you talked about before.
Yeah. So for the Moz, I mean, just to capture that really quickly. So we are updating at the exact same time that Moz updates, except we're giving you a nice little historical growth here. You could actually make correlations from your activity on Google Plus to what is happening with your overall Moz rank. Also, notice external links. You can also take a look at that. And of course, your page authority. Can't let the secrets out of the bag yet, but we're going to be doing a lot more with the Moz type of data in version 2.0. Yeah, can't say much more than that. But
I'm not even going to tempt you.
It's going to be holy grail stuff, put it that way. Then we go to alerts. As far as alerts, we've already talked about a couple of them. But some of the ones that are really important is like low engagement posts and what we call lonely comments. So both of these are pretty much they're pretty much the same thing. Either they're a post that's gotten 0 engagement over the last 7 days, but maybe it was an awesome post, right, Gina? You do awesome posts. So, so you do too, Alex. An awesome post, but maybe hey, you put it out the wrong time, whatever, and nobody saw it. So
I feel like those are the excuses we tell ourselves. We're just like, it was the wrong time. It's not
yeah.
my post.
But what you can do is we let you know, hey, there's a post you've got, it had no engagement. Why don't you go share that into a community, or hey, repost it. And then we have lonely comments. Lonely comments comes in very handy, and I've heard from quite a few people that they've been able to really reinvigorate great content with it. And that basically means is that somebody in a post over the last 7 days has made a comment, but nobody has responded to them. So we're encouraging you basically to go back and respond to them. We've shown through data models that by doing that, you're going to increase your engagement and hopefully the relationship with that person. And the last thing as far as alerts goes is the post activity. And so what we're looking for there is, and we kind of talked about it a little bit before, is that 72-hour window of time.
Right.
Is that if you've got a bad quality score, or if you have not made a post in the last 72 hours, we're going to bug you about it, because you should be active on your profile. And sometimes we forget to go make a post. Well, if you want to be notified, if you want basically our butler to, in a sense, come and say, excuse me, I think you should make a post, sir, then, well, we won't do it with an accent, but it will send you an email. So, and if you get annoyed with the emails, you can always turn them off.
I want to not post for 3 days just so I can get that one.
Is it in that accent and everything?
I want it with the accent. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna have to do an MP3. So, and then the last 2 things that are in here is we'll just go to the tool page really quick. This is just kind of a neat thing that we threw in there. You can throw up to 25 URLs in there. It doesn't have to be yours. It could be any page. And it'll tell you the number of +1s that are on those pages. Really handy if you, for instance, you have some blog posts that you've done that you love, and you just want to throw them in there every once in a while and check out how they're doing. In the upcoming version of State of Demand Pro, I think we're planning on it for 2.0. Again, no promises. That you should be able to actually track and store that data, so you can track a post's longevity over time and the +1s it's achieving. And then, actually, I want to go into settings really quick, because I haven't talked about this that much, and nobody else has either, so I want us to talk about it here.
Oh.
Except for the fact that it's disabled for the demo, so I'll just tell you about it. So it's one thing that's really cool, and I think Sprout does this too. I'm not sure about Hootsuite, but one thing that's also really cool here is that, let's say you're a brand manager and you have people working for you, or let me rephrase that. You're working on a brand, but you want to share the statistics with somebody else on your team, but you don't want them monkeying around with the settings. So you just want to share it. You can go ahead and add somebody to any one of the profiles, and they will have read access to that report. So in their account, whether they have a pro account or not. That's the important factor, is that they don't actually have to have a pro account. So we'll create a pro account for them, but it'll only show that profile that's been saved with them. Shared with them. So yeah, so it's just an additional feature that we kind of added and said, hey, if you've got a profile, it's in your system, and you want to share it with your colleagues, a friend, whatever, then you can go ahead and share the data with them. They don't actually have to be signed up for an account.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And then speaking of reports, so you can generate an HTML report. HTML just means it shows up on the screen versus being downloaded as a PDF, but they are exactly the same thing, and it just gives you the lowdown on where you are, and then your change over the course of the past month. Very pretty, and the C-suite loves this stuff.
Yeah.
So,
and actually, what's really cool about this, it's not just based on the previous month; it's based on the previous period that you've selected back where we were. So
oh,
at
that's
the
true.
top,
Yeah.
yeah. So at the top, if you have a 3-month window that's selected,
Am I
it
allowed to
will
do that? No, I
compare
can't
it.
do that.
You can't do it in the demo, but if you have 3 months selected, it will compare it to the previous 3 months. So you can actually look like, say, by quarter or by year growth. So pretty handy.
All right, I'm coming back.
Yes, come back,
Yes.
Stefan, so that we can let everybody go. It seems like, I mean, it seems like a rabbit hole of information for someone like me, just real quick, for someone like me that's like, I want to go in and find out the most important thing about my posting. Where would you say would be the best? Like, I want 5 minutes of the most important thing about my posting. Where should I go in steady demand?
So I would probably first go to that connections page so that you can just make sure everything's going up in the right direction. And if you see any, don't get into the rabbit hole, but if you see any major changes anywhere, I think it's worth investigating them. Um, the other thing I think would be probably a good idea to check out is just that post quality page, just because, again, it's one of those things that can give you a real quick glimpse as to whether there's something you have to fix, or how you're doing overall. Like you may realize, what, I've been slipping, and I need to start adding hashtags. I forgot. Oh, I gotta. So it's like one of those things. And then I would hop over to the engagement page, and I mean, to me, like, I love that post type one. And so if it were me, I would actually look at that and then try and see if by changing the date, the dates, you can see if anything moved one way or the other. And so you might notice that, oh, okay, I have my photo posts are actually getting more comments. So this is good. I want to make sure I keep this up. So part of the whole thing with these these reporting tools is you need to know what you want to look for, and then you need to be able to apply that information to the next thing that you're going to do. So again, you have to have that in place first. And so when we're trying, ask us questions about that stuff, guys, because we're trying to create enough content around the questions and the things that people would use the tool for, so that you have a good idea of what you can do with this data. Because otherwise, it's just data. You're going to log into it, look at some pretty graphs, and then leave, and it's going to be a waste of everybody's money. So it makes more sense to be able to get something out of this. So if you have any questions, definitely let Ben or myself know, or plus mention steady demand. Any of us will be happy to chime in.
Yeah, and I will say this, is that there are 2 guides that we've put out there so far that really cover like the best practices on how to use the SD Pro tool. One of them is on the social media hat, and the other one is on Plus Your Business. Both of them go really directly into strategies and intent and ways to use the tool, and kind of give you some creative ideas, and both written by Stefan, by the way. And but they give you really very practical advice, like, hey, log in and do this once a day, log in, do this once a week, and this is what you're going to get out of it. So it can help you build that intent and that strategy basically behind what's the data. But we're just providing you data and some education. You have to do something with it, though, and you'll see the improvement. And that's the beautiful part, is that you'll see the improvement.
I guess I have to dive into the world of analytics. For those guides, Stefan, if you have links to those, that would be great. I'd love to put them in the details of the event and the comments,
Sure.
so that people can find those, because it is definitely a rabbit hole. I know I'm terrified of math and I'm terrified of analytics, but it is a rabbit hole that many of us should go down. But we ran a little bit over time. Not as bad as we thought, though. I mean, 15 minutes versus hours. I think that's pretty good. I think you did well, Ben.
Thank you.
I want to thank both Ben Fisher and Stefan Hovnanian for coming on and giving us not only insights into relationship building in Google Plus and how you can transition that into business relationships, but into the steady demand tool and what that can do for all of us here. Where's the best place for everyone to find you guys?
I was going to say, so if somebody wants to try out the tool, if they haven't already, if you haven't already, shame, shame, shame. No, seriously, just go to steadydemand.com, and up in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the word Pro. Click on that. It'll bring you to our nice little landing page that tells you all about the features and benefits, and you can start up a 14-day free trial. And because we're on the HOA with SEOWiSE, you can use the code Brand Manager, and that'll give you 20% off for life. And yeah, and our low plan starts at $14, so 20% savings on $14 is actually pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, so yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. You can find us at steadydemand.com, and or plus Steady Demand, of course.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. And of course, if anyone still has questions out there, feel free to ask them. There have been some great comments. I'm sorry we didn't have a whole lot of time to bring in all the fun. But until next time, we are not doing any more of the SEOWiSE Friday office editions for a while because we're working on a lot of other stuff as SEOWiSE / a new company. It's really complicated. But of course, I'm always in Plus as myself and SEOWiSE, so see you all in the Plus.
Awesome.
Bye,
Thanks for
guys.
having us.
Thank you.